Hey guys, what is up? What's up on this Friday at 4:30 p.m. I'm here with my guy Blake and the Atlanta kid. Introduce yourself, my guy.
Well, how you doing, Mitch? It's good to see you this Friday afternoon. I got home from school, I don't know, 30 or so minutes ago, and hey, we got another Atlanta-Philly big game. It's been a very common event here and across all sports here the last year or so, and hey, can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited. We got 6 people in the chat already, and I just want to give a special shout out to my guys over at Spotlight Sports Network. Thank you again for partnering with me. This is on their channel. It's also on my Twitter, their Twitter, Twitch, Facebook. Everything is all over the place so everyone can see it. But what everyone's talking about is the Eagles versus Falcons, right? That's what basically everyone is talking about. And I just want to say, what are your expectations with the Falcons this year for this game this year?
Well, for the year, I'm going to be completely honest. I'm just hoping for just some sort of progression. I don't think this is the year to win. Going to be completely honest. I don't think this is the year to even contend. I just want to see some steady progress in the team, that the team shows that they have some quality pieces and they keep building on. I think the best window for the Falcons at this point in time is probably about 2 years down the line, being that the Saints cap situation is going to be incredibly out of control by then. And I think, as we said, the Bucks, they're not going to be able to keep these guys for that much longer. I think they'll maybe be good at that point in time, but I don't think we can expect the Bucks to be a powerhouse for the next 4 or 5 years. So I think around 2 or 3 years is the time for them to step back in to where they want.
Okay. So what about the Eagles coming up? Are you nervous, scared? What are your feelings going into that?
Well, Falcons-Eagles games are always, for some reason, misguided by the media. Especially when it's in Philly. I think the huge storyline every time is Matt Ryan's only won, one game since he's played back at home, since he's been with us since 2008. But it seems like every time we meet, and it's ironically always either the playoffs or like week 2, it's nothing in between. The media always misguides some sort of information. I think we're starting to see that again this week, being that all the media outlets are about 60-40 on who's going to win. It's completely different based on whatever platform you see.
Yeah. And honestly, a lot of people are discrediting the Falcons, I got to say, because I know they got rid of Julio Jones. They still have Calvin Ridley, who's a stud. They still have, they have Kyle Pitts. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I just got to say, Calvin Ridley, I feel like he's going to break out. That's just me.
Only problem is the situation that we're in, salary cap-wise. Thank you, Thomas Dimitrov, for that very much. He's got 2 years left on his deal. Well, technically 1. We extended for the 5th-year option. But the thing is, we don't want him to break out to the degree that in 2 years he's asking for more money than we can, afford. Because then we're really in a hole. This team has a lot to fill, and I think you could say the same for your Eagles over the next couple of years, but it's just going to be interesting to see what they can do this year, because it's going to rely on what we can do the next couple.
Yeah. So he's asking me, MK, how worried are you about Jalen Hurts' performance this year? I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all. He's coming in with a great mindset. The team around him is perfect. Think about it. We got Devontae Smith, Jalen Reagor, Quez Watkins, Miles Sanders, Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz. This offense is built perfectly around him. And if you guys remember last year, the offense was so bad. Our best wide receiver was J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, and I made a video about him today. Go check that out. But, so this offense is built perfect for Jalen Hurts. The only thing I'm scared of for Jalen is his injuries, because I don't want anyone to get injured. Knock on wood. I don't want anyone in the Atlanta Falcons to get injured. Knock on wood. So I just want a clean game, and it's going to be close. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a high-fought battle, and you got to see how they can contain Jalen Hurts. And, so this actually just came up to me. How nervous are you with Matt Ryan? Are you nervous at all? Because he's like 36. He's up there in age. So
Could you rephrase the beginning of your statement? You kind of crackled out.
Oh, I did. So I'm trying to think what I said. It's going to be a close game. We all know that. The Eagles and Falcons is always close. So, and then Matt Ryan. How do you feel about him and him playing this year, being 36?
Um, See, I know this is going to be what a lot of people disagree with, especially in Falcons land, being that apparently we're all bored of Matt Ryan. You could ask me why. I still don't understand it. I don't think the man is the Hall of Fame guy that we thought he'd be. I mean, he'd either need another MVP or some ring. That's not happening. But I do think that he is being miscredited once again quite a bit. I do believe that the QB is supposed to be the leader of the team, and eventually the blame's going to come back to you. But for people to say that he's not the same as he was even 6 years ago is completely befuddling, seeing that the stats, minus the MVP year, are still pretty much consistent. And to think that the last couple of running backs he's had, one's had no knees, Todd Gurley.
Yeah.
The other's now bounced around in 3 different organizations since leaving us,
Mhm.
Devontae Freeman. So when you take out the running game, he's one-dimensional. You end up losing, of course, your guy, Julio, who, let's be honest, hasn't been healthy, or what he was since the Super Bowl season in the last couple of years. He has his 5th offensive coordinator in the last 8 years. That's always tough on a quarterback, no matter what level of elite you are. And then take into account, I think you saw this a lot last year with Carson Wentz, is our offensive line is consistently bottom 10.
Yeah. And actually, he brings
38. The defense is scoring 39. So,
Yeah. So, who will take Julio's spot at the number 1 wide receiver for the Falcons? Ridley, right?
yeah, I think most obviously would be Ridley.
Yeah. I mean, Ridley is a 2. That was scary alone. I felt like that was pretty scary with him as a 2.
He was a 3 there for a little bit when we had Mohamed Sanu. So,
Right. I forgot about Sanu. My God, you guys had a good wide receiving core for the last couple of years.
mhm.
You really did. Wow.
Takes it
And
back to-
huh?
I said it takes us back to the Roddy White, Harry Douglas, young Julio days, Tony Gonzalez, Alvin
Yeah.
Robinson.
Yeah. So, how do you feel about Mike Davis, the running back?
I'm going to be honest. I've heard a lot more good things said about him from people in the fantasy world, which I know we plan to get into later, than, I guess, firsthand with the Falcons. I get that he was kind of just a plug and play. I don't think he's the long-term answer. I do think eventually the Falcons will end up picking a running back higher in the rounds. I do think he fits Arthur Scheme's game plan a lot. For those of you that don't know, Atlanta's got a new coach. He was the Tennessee offensive coordinator for the whole years that Ryan Tannehill revitalized himself, and they had Derrick Henry break out. And Mike Davis is that same type of back. Not that he's Derrick Henry, but he's that same type of big archetypal truck right by a type of running back. And he's been pretty healthy the last couple of years, so I'm hoping that he at least fits the game plan.
Yeah. I'm actually looking forward to see him how he messes with Matt Ryan and all that stuff, because based off what you said earlier, with like the running backs being a heavy part of the offense, especially Matt Ryan can't run.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing I just gotta say about the Eagles defense right now is that we gotta rush you guys, man. We just gotta rush you, and I don't think with that. Are you scared of the Eagles rush?
I think if any team starts to rush us, I'm scared. The offensive line is just that bad. Jake Matthews was never really that guy. I think we got him like number 6, 7 or 8 years ago now. He out of Texas A&M. He came from the Clay Matthews athletic family. He's been okay, but he's not been what he was supposed to be. But only him and I guess Chris Lindstrom, our 24-year-old guard, who's supposed to be into the elite caliber this year, are the only 2 offensive line guys that I'm like, okay, they're going to do their job. You lose Alex Mack. He goes back out west, back to his homeland to play for the Niners. We have a lot of young guys, but there's still projects. Caleb McGarry's been injury prone. We drafted 2 rookies, Drew Dahlman and Jack Mayfield. They don't look quite ready. And then even guys like Matt Hennessy early in their second year. So if any team starts to rush the Falcons, I don't care who they are, I'm scared.
Yeah. And the Eagles defense with Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator, the new system and everything. I'm actually excited to see how they go up against Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, and everything. And we don't have the strongest linebacker core. I know we got Eric Roshan, Ryan Kerrigan, and those guys.
What about Duke Riley?
Huh?
What about our guy, Duke Riley?
Yeah. Yeah, him. So I'm just gotta say, it's gonna be a toss-up game. But
I just took myself off camera while I was taking a sip of a drink.
oh, I was confused. But yeah. So with the Eagles defense, I'm excited to see. We got Steven Nelson, our cornerback duo. How do you feel about that? Steven Nelson and Darius Slay.
Well, Darius Slay, I think everybody knows is the guy.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I'm still surprised the Lions a couple years ago decided to give up on him for Okudah and not try to keep them both. Because I think, let's be honest, if you get two young corners to blossom together, they last for years in the NFL. And we see that a lot from way back in the day till now. I mean, as I said, the Falcons' offense is usually the unit that's not the problem. But yeah, Darius Slay will be able to make those plays, and he's one of those guys I think that's heavily slept on, and I think he's going to make a couple big plays for your guys' end.
Yeah. Yeah, what is up, Lindy? My guy, a fellow Eagles content creator. Last time I checked, Duke Riley was a Dolphin.
So he's bounced both of us.
Yeah. Yeah, what's up, Jordy? Another Eagles content creator. We got a lot up in here. So, why don't we just talk about your channel and what it's based upon? I know it's about the Falcons, Braves. Just give me more in depth in what you talk about with your channel.
Well, to be completely honest, I've been absolutely inactive over the last year or so. But when I have decided to be active, it's a lot of similarities to what you do over here, Mitch. I get into a lot of heated, I guess, hot takes to deal with the Hawks, Falcons, Braves, and I've gone into the Atlanta United spectrum here and there. It's just, of course, they're not my forte. But yeah, I've done, I guess, mostly Braves content in the last year and a half, being they've been the premier team in Atlanta, success-wise. But yeah, I do a lot of similar stuff to what you do over here. Rant videos. I've done one of my videos I did that's super popular all of a sudden is I did an Atlanta Falcons choking compilation. It's like 3 minutes long. Of like games the last decade or so. Excuse me, it's like 6 minutes long. And it continues to get views because week after week we choke. So
Yeah. I didn't want to bring that up at all. I try not to bring it up, but you beat me to it.
every day. You know, it's nothing new. It's something I get every day, and it's something I've just learned to live with, especially because it's the Falcons aren't the only team that do it in this city. So it's just reality.
Oh, no, they're not. No, I'm just saying that. A lot of teams in NFL are known for choking. I'm just saying that right there. The Cowboys, just saying that right there.
Dan Quinn.
Yeah. So, yeah, man. So what record, where do you have the Falcons go in your division? First, second, third, fourth?
What do I have the NFC division ranked as?
Yeah.
NFC South, I should say. Well,
Yeah.
I think it'd be completely and utterly stupid for me not to put the Bucks at number one. Especially they're up first as of now, 1-0 with everybody else not in play. I got to go the Bucks one. See for a majority of the offseason, I was trying to tell myself the Falcons would be second. I just don't see it. I've come to cope with myself to just expect progression and not anything serious. So I think because of that, the Saints still have enough talent. I think where they're better than us, and I'm going to put them second. Third and fourth between us and the Panthers is an absolute flip-flop. I think they're better built defensively for the future, but we're better built offensively for the now. But I mean, what type of fan am I to say my team's going to finish last? So I'll go us third.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I really do. But hey, there's some realistic fans out there, including myself, that would be like, okay, the Eagles are going like 7 wins, 7-10. I have them going 9-8, but I'm just like, there's realistic fans out there that like, okay, we're going to be in last this year, and then next year we'll be in third, so on and so forth. So you're not wrong if you predict them going last, honestly. You're not. But I agree with you. The Falcons are third, Panthers are fourth, because they only have Sam Darnold, right? Who else should they got? I'm really drawing a blank.
I mean,
Christian McCaffrey, okay. Other than
he's the big addition back. They got 2 really young receivers, Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, who they're hoping is able to breed with Sam Darnold. And the interesting thing is Sam Darnold gets his rematch with the Jets week 1. So that'll be a very interesting game. But yeah, Sam Darnold is the guy for them. That's going to answer a lot of the questions for our division in the next couple of years.
Falcons in trouble.
Let's be honest, Mitch. Both our teams are in trouble this year.
Yeah, I'm being honest here. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Because with the Eagles, I don't know. there's a lot of question marks, right? We have Nick Sirianni. We got Jonathan Gannon. We have so many question marks and what kind of offense they're going to run, defensive scheme. I'm just saying there's a lot of question marks on both teams. So,
And I think it helps you out that your guys' division isn't up to full par as it used to be, for lack of terms. And I think that helps teams that are 7-10 in the NFC East, if I'm correct, maybe look like they're better than they really were. And sometimes that helps a team because it makes them think that they can win, being the circumstances of their competition. And who knows, if you guys go 9-8 this year, you very well could sneak into that wild card spot. And hey, your GM might be willing to spend a little bit more money to get you guys back over the top. So.
yeah, but I just got to say, since you brought up general manager Howie Roseman, this is his make or break year, and he's done a lot of stuff to keep his butt with the job, keep his butt in the chair. Think about it. Traded that whole thing with the draft, right? Like we were at 6, then we went to 12, to 10. We had Devontae Smith. We got Eric Wilson, Ryan Kerrigan. We got Anthony Harris. We got Steven Nelson. So we got pieces thanks to Howie Roseman. So knowing that, he could be here for the longer haul. Now, let's say the Eagles do finish 9-8 and get that second spot. Howie Roseman, I will kind of hate this to be honest. He'll be here for the long haul. I mean, yeah, a lot of people just don't like Howie Roseman as their
See, when Atlanta fired Dan Quinn last year, I knew it was a long time headed. When I was not so sure he should have kept his job after 2019, and I said if the Falcons lose one game in utterly fashion, I'm right back on the fire DQ train. Of course, that happened week 2 at Dallas when we decided not to cover an onside kick. And a couple weeks later, Dan Quinn was officially fired. And I said that day, Thomas Dimitroff better get his butt out of here too. The Falcons general manager for the people.
Yeah.
And I think it's hilarious because Thomas Dimitroff was the one that broke the news to Dan Quinn after the game that he had been terminated. And little did he know that about 6 hours later, Arthur Blank, our owner, would come walking down the stairs to tell him his ass was gone too. So.
Yeah, that is kind of funny. So, I just got to say, got to bring it up, Kyle Pitts. I want to know your reaction when you got him with that 4th overall pick in the draft.
So I don't know how big of college fans you guys are in the Philadelphia area, Mitch. I know down here it's huge bread and butter. Sometimes it comes in front of NFL football. Down here in the Southeast, and I'm ironically a huge Florida Gator fan.
Really?
I for pretty much everything collegially. My dad got me into college sports, and he ended up being a big Florida alum, so that got me, of course, a lifetime fanship with the Gators. And of course, that's where Kyle Pitts came from. And I was arguing with a couple of people today, just in my classes, about the Falcons should have taken Justin Fields. Every day I get this, and just to think that if we draft Justin Fields, right, he's sitting on Atlanta's bench for 3 years. They're not, maybe 2, but it's going to be at least 2 or 3 years before he even sees the field. And by that point, it's time for a contract extension for a rookie. We drafted Kyle Pitts, who at that position, especially knowing that Julio was going to be gone within a couple weeks, was the best pick for us and maybe athletically on the board. And to think that within that same time that Justin Fields would be sitting behind Matt Ryan, Kyle Pitts is more than likely going to be an NFL star. The kid was just too, for lack of terms for me to say kid, he was too good for the college game. He missed, 4 or so games last year, but that didn't matter. He still ended up going number 4 in the draft. Very likely could have been 3 if it weren't for the Niners trading into that slot to get Trey Lance. But the dude's an absolute athlete, and I can't wait to see him tear it up here the next couple of years.
Yeah, I thought that the Falcons were going to get a quarterback because I honestly thought that. So I made several videos about this before the draft. I was like, okay, the Philadelphia Eagles should trade up, like to switch with the Falcons and get Kyle Pitts there. I said that because we needed a tight end. That whole thing with Zach Ertz, right? That whole situation with Zach Ertz, really, really pissed me off. I would usually say, okay, I would trade Zach Ertz for this iced tea, Fortnite V-Bucks or something. I wanted him gone. So I was like, can we trade up, get Kyle Pitts? But at the end of the day, we got Devontae Smith, and I'm obviously happy about that. Obviously, the best route runner of the league, of the draft, I should say. And
if I may ask, how did Dallas Goedert come about?
What do you mean? He's good.
I know, but like you were saying that you wanted a tight end situation, like you had a huge tight end board. May I ask how Dallas Goedert came out?
Yeah. Well, I was mostly about Zach Ertz. Dallas Goedert is safe, in my opinion. He was safe as one. But with Zach Ertz and that whole dilemma, I was like, we needed him gone. We needed him out because we're rebuilding. I didn't want like any negativity, all these distractions or whatever. So I'm like, okay, Zach Ertz, you gotta get your mind right, get you back into the field, on the field, and do some work. He did that, so I'm all good now. But Dallas Goedert, he's the best tight end we could have ever asked for, in my opinion. He's arguably top 5, top 10 tight ends. Our tight ends are good. Goddard, top 10. Zach Ertz, 5 to 10.
I'll still put him in that top 25 percentile.
Huh? Zach
I would
Ertz?
still put Zach in the top 25.
Yeah, I just said like 5 or 10 area. Yeah.
Now, it really just depends on do the Eagles run the trip formation a lot? Because if not, having multiple tight ends is kind of a waste.
Yeah, I don't think so because I know Nick Sirianni is a huge tight end guy, but again, like I said before, I have a lot of question marks about this offense and Nick Sirianni. I need to see something in the first game. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen that yet. So, triple tight ends, we did not do that at all. We mostly did double with Goddard and Ertz last year on Doug Peterson. So, AJ, Florida, a Tampa Bay Buccaneers content creator. I refs on their side. Oh my God! I'll talk to you later about that, man.
No comment. I can't.
I'll talk to you later about that.
Mitch, I got a question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
So you were kind of speaking on earlier about quarterbacks in the draft, and of course, the Jalen Hurts situation. Speaking on, I'm sure like a lot of Philly fans were 2 years ago in the middle of quarantine when the NFL draft decided to go virtual. In the second round, I'm sure at that time when the Eagles took Jalen Hurts, what were you saying?
I hated the pick. Because obviously we had Carson Wentz, right? I didn't want that whole competition there, but knowing Carson Wentz at that time I was beyond pissed. I didn't want it. That was your trash pick. It's just like now it makes sense though, but going back then, it just didn't make sense to me. I thought they would get like a wide receiver or a cornerback back then, but hey, we got Jalen Hurts, and now with Carson Wentz in Indianapolis and that whole trade scenario, it worked out in the end.
But I just remember at that time, so many Philly fans were really mad that CD went one before him to the Cowboys. And I want to say there was another LSU receiver from that national championship team on the board, and you guys went with Jalen Hurts, the Alabama quarterback, and everyone's like, whoa, Carson Wentz is their franchise quarterback, and they went QB second round, and you flash forward to mid-November, where everything changed, and all of a sudden, that pick all of a sudden became like a what's the term I'm looking for? Embrace these guys, or something along those lines. So.
Yeah. Yo, AJ, I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Much appreciated you. Yeah, it's just like luck of the Irish, I gotta say, right? It's just luck at this point. But
luck of the
the disrespect of the media doing with Jalen Hurts, Dan Orlovsky not even in his top 40 and all that list. Do you think where do you have Jalen Hurts ranked for QB in NFL?
Do you want the fantasy answer or do you want the league answer?
League answer. Fantasy, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Don't worry.
As of today, I'd probably have him in the bottom half, but that doesn't mean that couldn't rapidly change. I still think he has a lot to prove, but I do think he will probably be in that top half by the middle of the year.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. 100% I agree with that. I don't know how these lists have rookie quarterbacks above him. Like, how is that possible? Like Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, who I think is overrated, and I think he's going to fall out in a couple of years. Honestly, that's how I feel. But I'm just like, dude, it makes no sense. They had Daniel Jones in front of him, man. They had Daniel Jones.
The guy that got sniped on your guys' field running into the end zone.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just talking to some Giants fans, content creators, and stuff, each one of them said that Jalen Hurts is better than Daniel Jones. Each one of them, except for Cockpits, but you know about him, yeah, Cockpits. But yeah, it's the disrespect, and that's when the Eagles shine. You know, the underdog mentality. Everyone's like, okay, we're counting them out. Boom, we're back. We'll beat you next. So
it's very similar over here for Matt Ryan. I get that he's not the rookie, second year, third year wonder of what Jalen Hurts is supposed to be, but I think last year Matt Ryan wasn't even in the top 100 players in the league. They had guys of Kirk Cousins quality and I don't know, I mean, names that you just wouldn't think would be on the list of Matt Ryan. I had somebody in one of my YouTube chats earlier this summer. I think I did a 24-hour stream in the middle of June, right? It was during the Sixers-Hawks series, ironically, during those 2-day breaks that we had in between the games. And I had somebody in my chat saying, well, the Falcons are, quote-unquote, the third worst team in the league because we had the fourth pick. And they said, well, we were the fourth worst team in the league, and the three teams got good quarterbacks, so the Falcons are going to be the number one pick next year. I'm like, oh, that's how that works, right? And I let the guy go on in chat, and he said, all these quarterbacks are better than Matt Ryan. And that list had guys that probably aren't even playing this year, as in Deshaun Watson, Kirk Cousins, Joe Flacco, I think, was on the list. I'm like, wait a minute.
Joe Flacco's our backup, or our third or second. Don't know yet.
It's just, I get that the results haven't panned out, and I already listed some of this rants earlier, but for people to think that some quarterbacks like Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Deshaun Watson is not playing this year, so that's kind of why that argument's out there, are better than Jalen Hurts and even Matt Ryan. So
it's just like the disrespect. It's just like, do you know whose fan? Was he a Falcons fan, or what was that guy fan of?
I believe he's a Falcons fan, but I'm not absolutely sure.
Okay.
There's a lot of Falcons fans, Mitch, these days that are anti-Matt Ryan. You'd be surprised. Social media was blowing up the other day saying to sign Cam over Matt Ryan.
Really?
A guy that's been
Cam
released.
will go to Dallas. Honestly.
A guy that's been released from 2 organizations in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
Supposedly better than a 12-year franchise quarterback who constantly beat Cam.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you on that. Cam Newton right now, he's a lost cause. Let's be honest, he's a lost cause. And people were actually saying, some Eagles fans were saying Cam Newton on the Eagles. But I'm like, wait, this was before we got Gardner Minshew. This was before that. So I'm like, okay, we have Joe Flacco, and I actually, I forget the other quarterback. Dang, we let him go. But, yeah, it was just like we had Joe Flacco. The reason we had him was to mentor Jalen Hurts, and then now Gardner Minshew. And then
just like RG3 was with the Ravens for a couple of years.
Yep. Exactly. So, who are you looking for, like, against the Eagles? Who are you looking for, like, as the most impactful player on the offense?
Offensively for the Eagles. Ooh. Well, as we were talking about before the show, we're both in a couple fantasy leagues this year. And in one of my fantasy leagues, I drafted Jalen Hurts in the later rounds of the draft because I think he will be a guy that I could plug and play later this year, especially if one of my quarterbacks get hurt. And later in the draft, I ended up getting Gronkowski. And as I said, I ended up flipping him for Dallas Goedert to one of my buddies that got auto-drafted. So his whole fantasy team was ruined. So I helped him out a little bit. But the reason I'm saying these names is I think that these guys are going to end up being hidden gems, especially in the fantasy world later this year. Of course, you know Dallas Goedert and you know Jalen Hurts, but I guess to be straight up honest, it'd have to be either Devontae Smith, the Heisman Trophy winner, or again, the quarterback that played with Devontae Smith in college, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, that's going to be a nasty duo. And I remember they were asking Jalen Hurts, who's the best future duo in the NFL. They didn't even bring up Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith. They brought up like Tua and Waddle and these other ones, and they were like, who? We're the best duo. So I'm like, why would you even ask them that question? Like, the media, man, is so bad sometimes. It makes you think, like, really? They're going to pay to ask that? It's
When you
just
think about it, though, all the guys they're naming are just college teammates that have linked back up. Waddle and Tua, Devontae and Jalen. Now you got Jamaro and Joe Burrow over in Cincinnati. Supposed to be until he got hurt, Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. So a lot of what they're talking about, they're just really hoping that the same storylines can continue on through college because ESPN needs that bread, and that's something that would help them out is being able to drag on storylines. But yeah, so I think you guys are going to be good in the long term offensively. Now you just got the Falcons' problem. Can you build the defense?
yeah, yeah. I'm really excited for the Eagles defense. Like I said before, I'm just really excited with the players that they got. We still have Fletcher Cox. We still have Brandon Graham and those guys. So I'm really excited what the defense is going to bring. But to stick with the offensive side, how do you feel about Miles Sanders? Because last year with Doug Peterson, they did not use him right, and he still had the most rushing yards in his career. So I'm like, what do you think about Miles Sanders?
Well, seeing he's only 24, a Pennsylvania native,
Yep.
so I'm sure that helps some of the fanship in your area. I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't have the full on analysis on him. I see that he's nicknamed Booby Miles, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But I mean, is he supposed to be a running back one this year, or is there anybody else that he's splitting carries with?
The running backs are gonna. He's the lock one. He's locked. We also have Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott and Jordan Howard on the practice squad.
Okay.
So running back wise, we are good. Even though I hated the fact they cut it Jordan Howard, I was still mad. I'm still pissed about that because we don't have a power back now. Like we have Kenny Gainwell, who's the next Miles Sanders in my opinion, and then we have Boston Scott again, who's like Kenny Gainwell and Miles Sanders. I mean, like it makes no sense. Maybe we're doing a West Coast offense. Who the hell knows?
See,
But
we're the exact opposite over here. We got Mike Davis, Quadri Ellison, who out of Pittsburgh a couple years ago was this big dude. We brought in Cordell Patterson, who's not really going to play in the running game, but if he does, another big, bulky type of power back. So the Falcons are the exact opposite story, being that we don't have that speed back. But to answer your question, I think it really depends on the O-line. As we know, both of our teams have had serious issues with that the last couple of years. But if the Eagles' O-line improves to a degree to where he's able to get touches, I mean, he's going to be tremendous this year because anytime you have a running back that can help out a young quarterback, even if the running back is young himself, it elevates the team to a whole level. I mean, you saw it 5 years ago now with Zeke and Dak with the Cowboys. A good O-line was able to get Zeke going, and Dak, of course, came over at the right time when Tony Romo had his fallout of his career, literally. And yeah, that sprung him forward for a couple good years.
Yeah. So for our offensive line, it's so deep, bro. Like the depth is out of the chart. We have Andre Dillard on our second unit. And I'm like, we have Jordan Mailata, who's like a rugby superstar. He's big, he's huge, and he's like the next Michael Orr, I feel like. He's the next guy like that. Then we have Lane John. Wait, Lane John. Am I drawing a blank here? Yeah, we have the other guys, Jason Kelsey, and we have Lane Dickerson off the bench who can start for any other team. And it's just like, man, our offensive line is going to be good this year if we can stay healthy. If we can stay healthy, we are good. We are fine. But
Now it's one thing to have depth, but it's another thing to have a level of depth, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think that's really going to come into play. It's how they gel and how good they play as a unit. Because as I said, you can have depth galore, but if they can't play with one another, that depth is all obscure. But to follow up another question you were talking about earlier, I remember you said the one unit you were most interested in the Eagles wanting to improve is the linebacker core, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Would you be interested in later this year, let's say around the trade deadline, there's a couple of linebackers that want out of their current situation. Would you sacrifice some of that O-line depth that you say is great to maybe go get another linebacker to add to complete your defense?
Yeah, I would. Like Andre Dillard, I said it again. I said it multiple times. I was like, Andre Dillard needs to go because I feel like for me, he's like a bust, in my opinion, but with the new scenery, he'll be perfect. So I hate to say this, but he's like the next number 25 on the Sixers. I hate saying that. But yeah, he just needs a new scenery because he definitely lost it when Mailata took his spot, and then last year when Jason Peters played, and that destroyed his confidence, bro. that destroyed him mentally. Having like a veteran like Jason Peters come in while we had like the stud O-line who we picked over some big talents in that year in that draft. So I'm like, dude, get rid of this guy. I would definitely get rid of some of that depth or whatever for a linebacker to make our defense better. I would.
Mitch, does it still feel like you won the Super Bowl 4 years ago?
No, not at all. Not at all, man. I'm telling you that Super Bowl we won a couple years back. I'm like, that was the best feeling I ever had. Like seriously, to live through the first one, and I'm just like, now the team has gotten worse and worse and worse since then. And
Imagine
then,
that, but a year longer and not winning it.
huh?
Imagine that, but not winning it and adding an extra year.
I
to that
know.
season.
I know. Can you imagine if we did that? If we gave up that 28-3 lead? If we did that? But yeah, I just gotta. I mean, what was going through your mind during that Super Bowl? Like, there was no way that this was happening, or
I was sitting in this very room. Wow, I guess the other side of the room. And I had a Super Bowl party that night. I was in middle school at the time. I want to say I was maybe 7th, 8th grade. And I knew in my mind the game was never over. I mean, Dan Quinn had already choked a couple times in Atlanta, and before that, our counterpart, Mike Smith, had been fired from Atlanta due to not being able to finish games. And I knew the game was never over. I just had that in my feeling. You learn to live with that as Falcons fans. But just the 48 hours, I would say, like the 48 hours after the game were the hardest. Just knowing that you had to wake up at that, for, of course, middle school is one thing. But waking up for middle school the next day knowing that your team just lost the Super Bowl in the worst fashion imaginable.
yeah,
And it's not like your guys' city. You guys are lucky. I know a lot of people say Philly fans are bad in some regard, but at the end of the day, you guys are loyal, and you guys ride and die with your teams.
Yeah.
In Atlanta, you don't get that here. I'm going to be completely, the Hawks fan base last playoffs rose out of nowhere. I'm glad to say I wasn't one of them. I was the one that rode through the rebuild, and same with the Braves, and hopefully here with the Falcons too. But you just don't see a lot of that here in Atlanta. And that's a lot of the reason they call us the transport city. I mean, heck, my mom grew up in Connecticut and moved down to here when she was younger, and she latched onto the Braves. And pretty much everything else became a stronghold. But you don't see that level of loyalty that Philadelphia has. So within 72 hours of the Super Bowl, the quote-unquote fans that follow football were back to bantering us. So I mean, that's another bad thing.
yeah. I mean, I remember, I think I was at my friend's house at the time watching the Super Bowl, and I'm like, there's no way Tom Brady could do this. I'm like, there's no way he could possibly do that. And I'm like, I questioned the GOAT, and he proved me wrong then. I'm like, there was no possible way. Like,
See,
what?
There's a big sports YouTube channel. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're called Secret Base. They're releasing a mini documentary series. They're each like 40 minutes each on the Atlanta Falcons, on their full history, and it's really frustrating. Of course, they started with the tease at the beginning about the Super Bowl, and they flash it back to where it all started. And they said a couple stats when you think about it are completely mind-boggling. Atlanta's offense, they showed a graph of like all the AFL, NFL merged offenses over the first 30 years of existence between the two leagues merging, and that Kyle Shanahan offense with the Falcons was in that top 10 percentile. They said we had 160 or so drives that year, and not including drives that ended the game or ended the half, we scored on 92 of 160 drives. That was, I think, 57%. We won twice, 2 straight possessions without points, only 3 times that year. And they combated that with Gostkowski, who was one of the most automatic kickers at the time, doinked an extra point to not even get the Patriots to double digits. So the lead was 28-9 with 16 minutes and some change to go, and Atlanta recovered an onside kick. And all they had to do was either A, run the ball, or get another field goal on the board and the game is over. They said the Patriots had to stop a top 10 offense in the league in history in 16 straight minutes, muster up 2 touchdowns during that same period, and 2-point conversions, and that's just to get it into overtime. What do you know? What do you know?
Yeah. It is what it is. I mean, the Eagles had some heartbreak tools. Definitely the NFC Championship games back then with McNabb and Andy Reid at the helm. Like, we had some heartbreaking jokes. That's just the nature of the sport. It really is, and it just sucks to see that. Like,
Yeah.
it's just so freaking bad.
It's just to think. Remember the next year that you guys went on to win it, we played you guys in the divisional, and that was when Carson Wentz had his MVP year, and he got hurt. What was it, week 14 or 15? It was really late in the year. Like
Yeah, it was like, yeah.
you guys were maybe a game away from clinching the 1 seed, so you guys were pretty much set in stone. But when you guys lost him, and of course Nick Foles hadn't played in 2 or 3 years as a starting quarterback, was set to start versus us in the divisional game. And I just remember all the talk about how Atlanta is going to sneak their way back into the NFC title game. And I'm sure you remember from the other point of view, it was right before half. I think we were up, I want to say 7-3, 7-6.
Yeah.
Right before halftime. And Foles threw an absolute duck to Keanu Neal, which hit off his knee and bounced into, who was it? Was it Alshon Jeffrey's hands?
Yeah.
Which set you guys in a field goal range, and that was the game changer right there.
Yeah.
The momentum flipped, and I think that game ended our quote unquote title window, even though it was a year and a game. But that game was heartbreaking for sure. Knowing that Julio dropped 2 balls, or not even dropped, he fell on 2 first and goal to go opportunities to win the game.
Yeah, yep. And I'm glad you brought up Nick Foles because I actually wanted to bring up this. Backup quarterbacks. I had these talk about with several Eagle content creators at the time. Let's say Matt Ryan is done for the year, right? Let's say, knock on wood. Let's say he's done for the year. How confident do you feel in your backup QB? And who is that?
Oh, well, this should be interesting. I said to my mom before the season last year, he was going into his 11th year, and I said, we've been lucky that he's been maybe one of the only franchise quarterbacks that hasn't had injured years, ever. I mean, when you think about some of the franchise quarterbacks that are still around from his period, Aaron Rodgers has had injury-riddled years. Big Ben has had injury-riddled years. Brady has been out, not really because of injury, but for other reasons. And we've been so lucky to have a guy that's been healthy his whole career. But, of course, you never know when that's going to last, especially with the O-line that he's given. But seeing our quarterback depth from the preseason, it's not too promising. Of course, we signed A.J. McCarron, who was Julio's college quarterback, but he tore his ACL in week 2 of the preseason. So we ended up bringing back in Josh Rosen, who's been anywhere in his 3 years in the league. But when you combine that with Felipe Franks, undrafted rookie out of Arkansas, and also was at Florida with Kyle Pitts, I'm not too pleased because Matt Ryan didn't play a single snap in the preseason, and that's how I can kind of get the vision of what it's going to be, and that team is pitiful regardless. But you take out Matt Ryan, and it's going to be some bloodbaths out there.
Yeah, it is, but it's just like when your quarterback gets injured, you're basically most of it. Who has a good backup quarterback that feels like, okay, I'm confident in them, let's win some games?
Nick
Like,
Saban.
Who?
Nick Saban at the college level.
Yeah. I mean, like, I can't think of one backup quarterback in NFL who I can say I'm confident in and I can play in.
Maybe Jimmy G. When he's healthy, he's a winner, but he's never healthy.
Exactly. I thought he was starting. They announced Trey Lance is starting?
I can actually double check that. But from what I do know, when I think we can agree, when Jimmy G has started in his career, he's been nothing but a winner. He was 2-0 in New England during the Brady stint, and then of course Jacoby Brissett.
Yep.
He was behind him, and he's been in other places. But he went to San Francisco after, right? He was there at the end of 2017, was 6-0. Then 2019 took him to the Super Bowl. Last year he started out good before he got hurt. He's never healthy, but when he is, he's maybe one of the best backup quarterbacks of this generation. I don't know.
I could say that. I could definitely see that. Like, I always loved Jimmy G. I always did. And I thought when he was going to retire as a New England Patriot, that Jimmy G could take it and run. I always thought that, but then they traded him, and I was like, boy, you messed up big time, I felt like. And then I was like, dude, Jimmy G is now in the Niners. Is he starting or no?
I'm looking at it right now. They're saying he's a go for week 1, but I don't think they say a start. Okay, so this is from a Bay Area media outlet. They said a brief reprieve from them was Lance was hurt, but there's probability that he can get worked in week 1 as he is a go behind starter Jimmy Garoppolo. So there's the answer.
Okay, so Jimmy G is a starter. I like that.
Don't get hurt.
Yeah, but for how long can he be a starter for? Like, do you see him like being a starter for like 5 weeks and then having Trey Lance come in, or can
Either that, or they'll come up with another Tyrod Taylor situation where the doctor stabs him with the needle and Justin Herbert's thrown in.
Oh my god, yeah.
I would like to see Washington maybe give him a shot. If Fitzmagic isn't what Fitzmagic was at Tampa and in Miami, I think Washington would maybe. And I know you hate to hear that because the last thing Washington needs is a quarterback. But if the football team, for lack of terms, is able to get somebody that's one of the better backups, as in Jimmy Garoppolo, midway through the year, I think that might be all they need to contend very deeply in the NFC.
Yeah, I could definitely. Honestly, I thought they should go for Cam Washington. I really think that they should go for Cam.
I don't think Ron Rivera wanted to.
It's not going to happen, but I thought it would be funny.
Yeah.
That would be funny.
That ship had sailed.
Yeah. But, hey, you know what? We have 13 minutes left in this podcast, whatever you want to call it. Let's just talk fantasy, man.
All right.
Let's just talk fantasy because I'm sure a lot of people in the chat or people who are going to watch it later are huge fantasy guys, including myself, including yours. So, what fantasy advice do you have first off?
I'm going to be completely honest. There's many years where I told myself not to play fantasy because it'd be addicting or I'd get into gambling. But then I realized, A, you don't have to play it for money. And B, if you know the sport, you might as well play it because it only, A, keeps you engaged, but B, it helps you know more. This is only my 3rd year playing fantasy football. I played fantasy baseball for the 2nd time this year, and that's like a 23-week season where you have to set your lineup every day. It's an absolute grind, and I'm in the playoffs.
Right. I've been there.
I'm in the playoffs, so crossing my fingers on going far in that after 23 weeks of hard work.
Tell me how well it goes, if you're making it up.
But I guess fantasy advice, the most obvious one. I mean, I think drafts are more than likely closed at this point. But if there was draft advice, of course, it'd be to get running back depth early. Especially the bigger league you're in, you're better off going running backs maybe rounds 1 and 2, knowing that they're going to be gone quick and they get you the most amount of points. Quarterbacks is like an iffy thing. There's guys that wait to draft in round 12, and then there's guys that get Mahomes round 2. I'm kind of in the middle. It really, I feel out per draft I'm in, and I don't know if you're the same way, Mitch, but I kind of feel out based on whatever everybody else is picking. I decide whether I need to get that now or then.
I did that too, but I'm in this 14-team league, and I had the 13th pick. Most of the running backs were gone, so I took Mahomes at 13.
Might as well.
I took Mahomes at 13, man. And then on the way back, I took Diggs. So
was that a snake draft? As in, you had the 2nd pick the next round?
Yeah, it was snake draft, yeah. So I had Diggs on the way back. That team, I had Mike Davis there as the starting running back.
Ooh. I see why you asked me that question, though.
No, I'm just saying, but that league I'm not exactly fond of, even though it is mine and my partner's league of my podcast you watched. But, yeah, so for this other league I'm in, this guy took Aaron Rodgers with his 2nd overall pick.
Oh.
And I'm like, dude. And who did I had the 7th pick, and I had Kamara.
Okay.
Kamara at the 7th pick. What are the odds?
See, I'm going to be completely honest. In the 3 leagues that I'm in, the 4th one, I think I guess might not ever get started because it's too late. So I'm in 3 official leagues. Maybe the 4th one will come about. I had the number 1 pick in one of them. It's only a 10-man league, so the talent pool is a little bit easier to get to. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to be completely honest. I didn't take CMC, and the reason being is I know he's going to torch the Falcons defense twice this year, and I felt unloyal. To take on a lot of hate for that, but I ended up going Dalvin Cook, and I think I ended up getting DeAndre Swift and James Robinson in the middle rounds as well. So I do have some good depth in that league, even though I had the chance to get CMC.
Yeah. So who'd you take with that first overall pick then?
Um, just in
Henry?
general,
Yeah, who'd you take?
I took Dalvin Cook. I was back and forth between him and Derrick Henry. I looked at it as this though. Okay, I said Derrick Henry added Julio Jones to his offense. So that's going to take away some carries. And I said he does get to play the Texans twice, but they said everybody said the Colts defense is supposed to still be pretty good, and the Jaguars defense is somewhat improved. So you got to think about who they play. I guess most importantly, so you know what type of teams they'll be facing. But then I thought of it as well. Dalvin Cook's in a bad division. The Lions defense has Akuda and who else? I mean, that's
Yeah.
two really good games for him. The Bears defense is good, but they're not what they were a couple of years ago. You'd think he'd be able to do what he wants to do in one of those affairs, and the Packers aren't built on defense. I would say they're probably within that middle tier as well, defensively in the league. So I think Dalvin Cook, if you're weighing it between him and Derrick Henry, I guess fantasy-wise, you'd probably go Dalvin Cook, being that he's got the easier route to success.
Yeah. I have in my other league. I have Dalvin Cook also. So yeah, you could never go wrong with Dalvin Cook in my opinion. But I swear, one of my leagues, it was like a week before the other two. I
Mhm.
swear that Henry was one, and then he moved down to five. I swear, I thought that happened, but then it was like, nope. Was McCaffrey always one?
I think a lot of people take him number one because running backs you can get receiving points and yardage points, and he's the guy for that. Him and Kamara are the guys that I guess are most utilized out of the backfield and in the backfield. So I feel like they're the most bang for your buck. But I personally didn't take him knowing that both those guys are going to torch the Falcons defense twice this year.
Yeah.
I was the same way in fantasy baseball though. In my draft, I tried not to take a lot of players from the National League East because I didn't want to have to have that feel of I need them to do well versus my team.
That's exactly what I do every time. I mean, I tried so hard to stay away from Cowboys, but football team, I'm trying so hard, and just like I can never do it. I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm only going
I'm
to be
not afraid to like start Mike Davis, for example, and go up against the Eagles. I'm not afraid of that at all. That's perfectly fine. That's the nature of the game. But I just have a feeling if you have a Cowboys player on your team, you're not a true Eagles fan in my eyes. So, I'm
especially at
just,
like one of the main positions. Like if you have a tight end, okay. Like if you got a tight end on the bench, whatever. But like I think in my fantasy draft for baseball, I think we understand we're in the same division. I only took a couple players from the NL East, but a couple others ended up flocking into the division later in the year. For example, I took Kyle Gibson in the late rounds. He was then on the Texas Rangers. Of course, now he's landed with your Phillies. And the same with Javier Baez. I took him, I want to say, round 7 or 8 in my fantasy draft this year, and he ended up with the Mets at the trade deadline. So sometimes it just doesn't work out how you want, but ultimately, especially if your team's doing bad, sometimes fantasy is a way to keep yourself engaged in the sport.
yeah, of course. And I remember years ago when I was a kid, I was so addicted to fantasy, bro. My grades would suffer. Like it
Oh,
went down. I had to stop. Like I stopped
see, that's
everything.
what I told myself for years. And I'm like, if I'm not playing it for money and I'm at the point now where I feel like I'm responsible enough for it, why not? I mean, it only elevates what you know.
Yeah.
So,
So I was so addicted to fantasy, dude. I did fantasy NASCAR. I did fantasy golf. So I had a problem back in the day. Like I did tennis. I did all those
oh
BS.
man.
So I'm like, they gotta stop that. And then like this is my I did 4 fantasy leagues, 3 this year in like 2 years.
Mhm.
And I'm like, that's fine. That's perfect for me. Before I did like 5 public leagues, 3 private in 1 year. So
And is
like
that across different platforms or just
that was just all on Yahoo.
wow?
That was just on all on Yahoo.
I'm
This
all on
year,
ESPN because you can have it on the mobile app. But I'm
yeah,
starting to get into that direction where maybe it's too much. I'm in 2 fantasy baseball leagues that are both 23 weeks going, where you can check your lineup every day, and the rosters are big, and there's a lot going on daily in baseball, fantasy wise. Basketball, I'm planning to jump into this year. I want to do multiple leagues of that. As I said, I'm planning to add a 4th fantasy football league. I'm not a huge hockey guy, but I mean, given
I did fantasy hockey one year. That was just
Given I'm from Atlanta, so we don't have a hockey team. I'm big into college football pick'ems, and I got back in. I started the NFL ones again this year. So when I think about it, I do have a little bit on my plate, or maybe a little bit more than I should regarding fantasy sports. But I mean, hey,
yeah. But hey, if you're having fun and your grades are not reflecting it like mine, you're perfectly fine. Like seriously, my grades are suffering. I did not go out a lot. I did not have a social life as much.
Mm.
So I'm just saying, while you're here, enjoy it. If you feel like you're getting overwhelmed, take a break. Doesn't hurt. I took a break for like 5 years, but it doesn't hurt.
see, I took a break before starting because I told myself it wasn't worth it. But here we are. Now I care what the Seattle Mariners are doing and what the backup center for the Sacramento Kings is up to. So
Here. All right. So we have like 4 to 5 minutes left. Score predictions. What do you have for your Falcons against the Eagles, and I'll give you mine.
can I relay it back to you and hear what you say first? If that's allowed.
Sure. I got the Eagles 24-17.
Sounds a lot like our Week 2 matchup in 2019. I just think it's so weird that we always play either Week 1 or 2. It's always that way. I think there's only been once this last decade. We play almost every year, right? It's only been once this last decade where it's not been the first 2 weeks of the year.
I know.
We played opening.
Guys in the chat, what's your record prediction for this game? I want to see it in the chat. Let me know, please.
So while they do that, I guess I'll continue to stall here for quite a few seconds.
Go for it. We got a 27-17. I'm making a video on mine tomorrow.
I'm gonna go 27-24 Philadelphia.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm shocked by that. Like, really, I am. I thought you were Falcons, man, honestly.
I mean,
AJ's going Falcons here, 24-17.
I just don't believe the team is complete enough yet. I mean, hey, if they win, they win. But as I said, I'm just hoping for more developmental progress this year and not contention. That's just me being realistic.
What's your season prediction for the Falcons then?
I think the ceiling is probably 8-9, 9-8.
Yeah, that's what I got.
But I think the low would probably be about 5-12, which is still better than last year. So I would maybe say, I think 5-12 would suit us because we get another high draft pick. But then there'd be a whole question about everybody that's on the contract year is going to be gone. So that's 4 really bad seasons. So that would make it even worse. I'll go 7-10.
Okay.
7-10.
Yeah, there's a couple Eagles content creators are 7-10 for the Eagles, and I'm perfectly fine. I hate the people, and I know some of them are in my chat right now, that would go 14-3.
No.
I hate it.
No.
I hate those people.
Of course, as a fan, you're supposed to believe that, but when you're giving predictions, you got to have a little bit more head than heart.
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel, and I just hate because my dad is like a realistic fan, and that's how I was raised. So I'm
But
like,
hey, if you guys get 2 Dallas wins and we get 2 New Orleans wins out of those 7, that looks a lot better on both our books. So
you're going
you hate the Cowboys and we hate the Saints.
Eagles. I definitely see more than 4. Like the first 3 are wins in my opinion. The first 2, like
I think, especially in your division,
yeah.
you'll perform a little bit better.
Yeah, I definitely don't see 4-13. I can see 9-8, 7-10, or 6-11. That's weird to say 6-11.
Hey, before I know you close out here in a second, who's your conference winners?
Conference winners? I got the Buccaneers and the Bills, and I have the Bills winning it all.
Okay. I'm gonna pivot off of that question because I'm a jerk like that, and I'm gonna say we're talking about the NFC West here, the most competitive division in the NFL, and picking straws to win the division. I'm going with the Cardinals because that division is a complete toss-up, and why not?
I like the Cardinals. They're very good. So with that being said, guys, thank you for everyone coming out. Thank you, Blake, for coming on. We got to do this again after the game. Maybe I'll be on your channel for that. We'll plan it. So thank you, everyone. Shout out to Spotlight Sports Network. Thank you for letting me be on your platform. Subscribe to them. Subscribe to me. Subscribe to the Blake. Just find him channel on YouTube and everything's good. All right, guys. Peace.
See you, Mitch.
See you, dude.